Oh, what's up, YouTube? And that one hurts. YouTube, if anybody's in here, I'm waiting to see if Matt or Jackson want to hop in. YouTube, if anybody's in here, I'm waiting. Man, there's nobody in here. I think it's just me watching this. Maybe somebody will watch it later. Oh. All right, it's just me in here. Screw it. Welcome back to the Jungle Auburn podcast. SEC play has started, and unfortunately for Auburn, it starts with a 4-point loss, 104 to 100 to the Georgia Bulldogs in the Stegman Coliseum in overtime. It was without a doubt one of the craziest endings to a basketball game I think we have seen in a long time. Auburn is down 4 with about 25 seconds to go in the game. Keyshawn Hall runs the floor, gets fouled on a three-pointer, makes the first two free throws. Stephen Pearl takes advantage of the stoppage and play to draw up a play design. Keyshawn Hall strategically misses the third free throw. It's grabbed by Kevin Overton, who gets a putback shot up with no time left on the clock, and Auburn forces an overtime, which would unfortunately go on to lose. But man, uh, you want to feel encouraged with a season going on and as you watch a team grow. And if you watch that Houston game, it's just tough because you feel like this team hasn't grown all that much. That was sort of the best that Auburn has looked all year. And they had 3 shots at the basket at the end of regulation against Houston and could not buy a bucket. And it was very much the same way in this game. Auburn at one point in overtime was up 98-97 and just could not finish the game. The ability to close against good competition seemingly non-existent for this basketball team. They outplayed Georgia. If there's one thing that's sort of encouraging about it, I mean, you look at the stats across the board, 45% from the floor. Granted, Georgia shot better, but Auburn got up 75 shots. They got up 10 more shots than Georgia did. And it didn't matter. Georgia outshot us from 3. They were 11 for 29. We were 8 for 30. So they made 3 more three-pointers than we did on 1 less shot. And I mean, the stat of the game is going to come back down to free throws, man. This team is a team of free throw merchants. We do a great job of getting to the line and forcing teams to foul, and we just don't make them pay for it. Auburn was 24 of 36 from the line tonight. That's 12 points they just left at the charity stripe in a game that they lost by 4. Despite being a little undersized, we've talked about how undersized Auburn has been all year. They out rebounded Georgia by 15. They were +2 on the defensive glass, plus 13 on the offensive glass to give them 17 second chance points. But it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough in the right moments. As we begin to go through and talk about some of the ups and downs of the performances in this roster, it was key moments when Auburn either took the lead or was in position to make it a closer game, where we've been watching this team let go of the rope, and for 2 or 3 possessions in a row, make bad plays on offense and then make up for it by not covering well on defense. We knew that Mike White and Georgia were going to be a run and gun team. They finished with 20 points off turnovers to Auburn's 15 and 20 fast break points. So again, that's 40 points in the open court. You knew they were going to give up something like that, but overall, I mean, it's hard to diagnose what Auburn has got to do better beyond getting more from its 8 guys. Auburn once again shrank the rotation in a very serious way. The big news heading into the game was that Todd Petford was going to come off the bench. Stephen Pearl is going to be speaking about that, I'm sure, in his post-game press conference. There's some suspicions that it might have something to do with discipline. Who knows? But either way, he was electric coming off the bench. He still played 32 minutes tonight and dropped 25 points, but he was not efficient doing it. He was 10 of 21 from the floor. And worst of all, he was 3 of 11 from deep. So Tahad's 3-point shooting continues to struggle. He did tie for the team lead with 4 assists and grabbed 3 rebounds, but he also committed 4 turnovers, including the backbreaker near the end of regulation with Auburn only down 2 and a chance to tie it, where he slipped at the top of the key and stayed on all fours as he watched the ball roll out of bounds. You want to try to be positive, right? So let's talk about Kevin Overton's play. Once again, did all of his damage at the end of the game, finished with 19 points, only 2 of 7 from deep, but 3 of 3 at the free throw line. He grabbed 7 rebounds and had 2 assists, 19 points for him. Everybody's been talking about Filip Jovic having a good game, and I think he had an efficient game. Finished with 10 points and 10 rebounds. He was 4 of 5 from the charity stripe, 3 of 4 from the field, but you just didn't see enough from him defensively, in my opinion. When he got switched on to by Georgia's guards, particular Smurf Millender and Wilkerson, he couldn't keep up. He got blown past and shot over despite being 6'8". We've seen that he is not an incredible athlete with his verticality, in the same way that a guy like Sebastian Williams-Adams is. He's a 6'8" frame, but when we have to bring him into play that 5, we're just vulnerable inside. And even when he's on the man in the right position, he's still getting shot over, which is brutal. We got some pretty good rotations from Caden Magwood. No glaring mistakes from him, but didn't score a point. 3 fouls, which is kind of brutal, but no turnovers. He started the first 4 minutes of this game before we sort of turned it over and ceded the way to Todd Petford. And then when we went to overtime, Stephen Pearl really went to the small ball look and had Kevin Overton and Keyshawn Hall running the point for us, with Elijah Freeman, Keyshawn Murphy, and Sebastian Williams-Adams all out there. So a desperate attempt to make lemonade. I mean, there's no way around it. This is not a very poorly constructed roster. We kind of got the sense of that when we saw just how dismantled we were by Michigan, and it's only gotten worse. These guys haven't figured out how to cover up each other's weaknesses yet. There's a lot of strengths. A lot of these guys do some things really, really well. Keyshawn Murphy as an interior rebounder, excellent, but seemingly can't stay out of foul trouble and has been struggling with injury. He still only played 22 minutes today. Some of that may have been with how well Jovic was playing, but I think a lot of it is just Auburn trying to go to small ball to counter Georgia's run and gun. But, towards the end of that game, he was just not rebounding effectively the way that we needed him to. And Keyshawn Hall, fantastic scoring guard. He had another 20 points tonight. 9 of 12 from the free throw line, only 1 of 4 from deep. His 3-point shooting was not great, although he obviously made the big one when he needed it. um, but continues to be lost on defense and uh, misses his guys in rotations. That's either leading to guys fouling on the inside when somebody blows by him or wide open looks from three on the wing. And teams like Georgia are going to make you pay. Auburn's been getting cooked from the 3-point line by a lot of really good teams, and that continued tonight. Georgia shot nearly 38% from deep, and that's just not going to get it done against these good 3-point shooting teams. Elijah Freeman, pretty good performance, 23 minutes for him, 14 points. He was 5 of 9 from the field, but 2 of 6 from the free throw line. It's not going to get it done. Absolutely not going to get it done. And probably, you don't want to say the most disappointing player, right? Because a lot of these guys are young and we try not to be box score watchers here, right? Sebastian Williams Adams' defensive play was incredible. In a lot of ways, he looked like a Chris Moore junkyard dog type out there, hustling on defense, stepping into passing lanes, forcing Georgia to get incredibly late in the shot clock, which is not usually how Georgia likes to play basketball. But 0 of 4 from the field. He was 0 of 2 from the free throw line, including 2 big misses at the end of the first half that allowed Georgia to go into halftime up 5. You got to get points from him, right? I mean, ultimately, the game comes down to who scored the most points. And when you have a guy as talented as Sebastian Williams Adams, particularly in the starting lineup, going over from the field, over from the free throw line, it doesn't matter how good his defense is, especially when the team as a whole can't seem to string together 3 stops in a row when they really need it. And that's probably been the hardest thing to watch about this Auburn team. It's been a lot of almosts and a lot of moments where you can see the signs of all the talent that is on this roster and all the reasons why these guys were brought in to play for the Tigers. And they just can't quite get it together for the full 40 minutes yet. Never more than now have I wished that college basketball would switch to quarters. College men's basketball, I should say. Women's basketball has been way ahead of us in that regard. But these long stretches, Auburn had a couple of stretches in this game where they went 4 minutes without a basket. And last year's team could have stretches like that, and it was pretty brutal. But this team is not the elite defenders that last year's team were, which is a little strange considering just how much more length and athleticism I feel like this team has, especially given how small the ball is going to be. But, you know, you look at a game where you're really trying to steal one on the road in SEC play, and Stephen Pearl only can play 8 guys. Some of that's injury and illness. Some of that is just who he trusts to be out there. Guys like Simon Walker and honestly, to a large degree, even Caden Magwood have proven that they are not able to defend in this system to the level that Stephen Pearl feels like he can trust having them out there for long stretches of the game. And ultimately, that's going to cost us, especially in a overtime game like this, where you have Philip Jovic foul out, Todd Pettiford fouled out, Keyshawn Hall had 4, Murphy and Overton both had 3 each. So everybody was in foul trouble pretty much across the board. This game was officiated incredibly tightly to start off. Auburn had 2 fouls in the first minute. And part of what struggled to get Keyshawn Hall going was that he picked up 2 fouls within about the first 4 minutes of the first half and spent a decent amount of that time on the bench and just trying to stay out of foul trouble. The lack of depth is painful for this team, and I think it's only going to continue to be more painful. Not to say that Georgia's not a good basketball team, but Georgia did not play well today, in my opinion. I think a better team would have run them out of their own gym. I think Auburn had the opportunity to, on several occasions, really stretch a lead. And we just couldn't take advantage of it. We couldn't hit free throws when it became a free throw shooting contest. Auburn got into the double bonus with about 9 minutes to go and couldn't take advantage of Georgia's mistakes like that. Georgia's big center went out for a couple of possessions. And again, Auburn couldn't attack effectively inside. Auburn got blocked like crazy tonight. Todd Pettiford got blocked in twice, slicing into the lane. And it echoes of last year in games in which we lost, or Todd Pettiford cutting to the basket and getting blocked. It's going to be a long slog through conference play, man. I get the feeling that we get a lot more performances like this in the bag for us. This Auburn team, they got a lot of talent. It's hard to say whether or not they're any good. They've beaten a lot of bad teams. Georgia was favored by 6.5 points by the time this game tipped off. So Auburn technically covered the spread, but they needed a miracle at the end of regulation to do it. And when you're in a position where you can steal one on the road, you absolutely have to, particularly because this could have been another quad one opportunity. St. John's lost to Providence today. So there's a very real chance that by the end of this season, Auburn will not have any quad one victories outside of conference play for sure. Inside of conference play remains to be seen. There's only a few of those opportunities coming up, and Auburn's going to have to take advantage of all of them if they want to make it 5 straight years dancing in the NCAA tournament. Um, this is who this team is going to be. Um, they're gonna struggle when they're on the road. When they're in Neville, I expect them to play a lot better. But we've got a lot of really good teams coming to Neville Arena this year, and nothing about this path is going to be easy. If you haven't had a chance to listen to our SEC preview episode, please do that. We'll talk a little bit about the schedule. Um, Obviously, with this in the rear view, it's some good context for kind of why a lot of us are hedging our bets. I think I was probably the most optimistic about this team, and I think that's because they've proven that they can at least score. And teams that can score the basketball can occasionally pull off some crazy upsets. I mean, I think about Georgia last year, led by Asanuo, who was good for 20 points a game. They upset Florida at home. And if Auburn can steal a game against Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, steal a couple of those games at home, maybe steal one or two on the road, get to 10 wins in conference, that's huge. Particularly huge for this team's chances to continue dancing and to make the tournament again. But tough loss. You hate to finally lose to Georgia after 3 straight years of not losing to them. Auburn will not see Georgia again. And the Tigers are going to be back at home against the Aggies of Texas A&M. They are currently unranked, so that should be a fun matchup for us. The Jungle Auburn podcast is going to be live after that game Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Oh, it's a late tip on the East Coast, so we better hope that that one doesn't go too long. Auburn's currently favored in that game right now. The ESPN analytics have us at about a 68% chance of winning that game. Texas A&M did recently lose one of their better players, which is a big deal. Texas A&M 10-3 on the year, struggled in the non-con, but pretty nice win over Pitt. Pittsburgh's not exactly looking like a great team this year. The only common opponent that we have is Oklahoma State. You recall Auburn lost to Oklahoma State in overtime as part of our preseason scrimmage games that didn't count, but Oklahoma State cooked Texas A&M at home 87-63. So we're going to be back in Neville, chance to lick our wounds a little bit, see if we can correct some things, get a little bit more back to that form we had in the Queens game. But regardless of the outcome, you can always come to YouTube live with us here at the Virtual Tumors Corner after the game, and you can catch us on wherever you find your podcast for the Jungle Auburn podcast. We will have a show for you no matter what, folks, because if we can get through this season, well, really, if we can get through the season after Jabari, I think we can get through just about anything. That season was pretty rough, the loss to App State and everything else. So, Auburn has been worse under the Pearls. But we got spoiled last year with just how good that team was, particularly how good that team was inside. I think the fun part about watching this team is hoping and imagining that a lot of these guys are going to be back in the orange and blue next season. There's a lot of room for growth with guys like Elijah Freeman and Sebastian Williams-Adams, and hopefully even some of the players that are not seeing the floor this year, guys like Simon Walker and Abdul Bashir and Emeka Oporum. We hope to see all of them back in orange and blue too. It was always going to be a tough year, and it's not getting any easier, but you know what makes it easier? Hanging out with your friends at the Virtual Tumor